30 seconds. 20. All right, y'all, you'll do well. Don't worry. And in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and thank
Welcome.
you.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Nate.
Hello. Thank you for attending the live question and answer session for Grow Your Business with Sustainable Services. My name is Nate Moses. Here we've got Bob Grover with Pacific Landscape Management. And thank you for being here and being part of this session. And thank you also to Echo for your sponsorship of this time. Bob,
All right,
any
thank you.
comments?
My pleasure to be here. I hope people enjoyed the session that we just presented.
Sure thing. Bob, any comments before we get started with the questions?
No, as I said, it was an honor to do this presentation. I've done this presentation a number of times. Our focus has been on trying to be as sustainably focused as we possibly can. And it's been, as I think I said in the session, it's not a destination. Sustainability is an effort, it's a movement. It's trying to lower our impact on the environment while still providing a quality service at an affordable price. And really, really important that people don't believe like you ever arrive. You can't get there easily, and you're always focusing on trying to do things. What we're doing today sustainably is different than we were doing a decade ago because the challenges and the opportunities and the resources change almost yearly.
Yep, that's good. That's good. It's a never-ending effort. Very good. Well, attendees, as you come in, feel free to put your questions in the poll window there on the right-hand side of your screen. And then if you see a question that you would like to be moved up, there is an opportunity to upvote it and just make sure that that gets brought to the front. We'll get started now. Bob, if you're ready, I'll ask you the first question that came through. And that is, how do we dispose of batteries after they have no longer usable life?
No, I wish I could have a quick and easy answer for that. But so far, the battery equipment that we've been utilizing, we've been using batteries for 4 years. We have not yet got to the point where we've had batteries that have lost their useful life. I'm going to assume that that is a issue that our manufacturers and our distributors will help us sort that out. So I would go right back to the distributor where I bought it and say, where is that? I know our local governmental agencies have recycling programs where we can get rid of regular Duracell batteries. So I'm sure there is a local source, but I've got to assume that our distributors and manufacturers have sorted that out.
Very good. The next question is, what challenges have we faced with regards to recharging batteries for the equipment? So this would be out in the field. What solutions have you found to keep the batteries charged?
You know, that is probably the biggest problem with battery equipment to date. Battery equipment starts off to be more expensive depending on the type of equipment that it is. Some of it is not as powerful as gas-powered equipment, but it's the charging. We're used to carrying around a gas can, and it's really easy to fill up a gas tank on a blower or a weed eater or a mower and keep on operating. With batteries, the most expensive part of the device usually is the battery. And so being able to recharge those, I've talked with people that have discussed, should we be putting solar panels on the tops of our trailers or on the tops of our trucks? And I looked into that briefly, and it takes a lot of solar power of a number of panels to generate enough electricity to have the power to recharge batteries. And I quickly figured out that it was not possible really to outfit a truck to be able to regenerate it with solar power. So where we need additional power beyond one battery, we have to have multiple batteries. So that can be a challenge, and it does run the cost of the operation with the batteries up because you have to have more than one. So I don't know if they've resolved that. I've also talked with several of the manufacturers on long-term, if we did convert to all battery, being able to recharge the batteries in my warehouse at night, I would need an infrastructure change in my warehouse. So not only is the useful running life of a battery in the field an issue with just even charging it of anywhere, I don't have enough plug-ins or potentially enough power. If all of my equipment was electric, I'm not sure I have the power in my facilities to charge those overnight. So that will be an interesting challenge for the manufacturers, and it's getting better every year. I believe battery equipment within 5 years on small engine equipment will probably replace gas powered. The technology is moving forward fast, not quite there yet. And those are some of the issues that we're talking about that are the questions that have been brought up.
That's good. One thing I'll ask you, have you tried putting power converters in any of your fleet trucks yet?
We actually have, and we've run some equipment. We've not done that for charging. We've actually done that for utilizing some electrical equipment. We've moved away from that, battery equipment for drills and roto hammers and saws has really improved as well there. So for a while we had, we have some generators that we carry around, or we even tried some inverters and stuff, but we're finding that battery equipment is working. You just have to have enough batteries to replace that stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about bioswales. Do you have suggestions for mitigating salt damage from parking lots?
We in the Northwest don't salt roadways. We'll utilize de-icers in parking lots, and but that's not an issue that we run into in the Northwest because we spread gravel over snow and ice in parking lots and roadways. So the salt issue is not something that we have dealt with. So I wish I had an answer for that, but that's probably somebody that operates in the Midwest or the East Coast would have more experience with that.
Okay. Are you aware of the tolerance of certain bioswales with salt, or is that something that you don't deal with a whole lot?
And again, because we don't deal with salt, I've not seen that issue or that problem. I can understand how that is a concern or could be a problem where salt runoff is coming off of roadways or parking lots, but that's not something that we have issue or problems with.
Sure thing. Thank you for that. Next question would be, what resources do you recommend for gathering return on investment data to sell sustainable initiatives to our clients?
That's a really, really good question. And if I had an opportunity here to share my screen. See if I can pull up the. I think to talk about that a little bit, it's really, really important. The sustainability movement probably got most focused around we need to, quote unquote, save the earth. We need to be doing things that are appropriate for the environment. Well, that is only one piece. And the whole reason that we have created this new, sustainability is kind of relatively a new word in its current vernacular. It's the combination of it. We're trying to improve or reduce the impact on the environment, but we also have to do that in an economically viable way and a socially acceptable way. So if you say, what is the ROI? There are several pieces of sustainability that provide some return on investment or don't cost any more than a traditional method. But if you focus just on economic value, you're probably not going to get very far down the road on reducing our ability to impact the environment. But you also need to take a look at, are the things that we're doing and suggesting going to be socially acceptable? Even in Oregon, which is a fairly environmentally conscious state, people still want their lawn to be green. They still want to have weed control. They still want to have the things that traditional, maybe chemically induced technologies are doing. But we need to make sure that we don't just say we want to have a beautiful environment if it's going to be super expensive and it doesn't appear and create the environment. So the combination of economic, environmental, and social, that's a very, very delicate balance that you need to maintain. Now, talking about the return on investment, it's very, very important that we do focus on that. And where you can find methodologies that reduce environmental impact, you can do some money savings. So one of the biggest areas that we found is irrigation efficiency is one of the greatest areas. And water, ironically, people think that the Northwest, where it rains a fair amount, especially in the winter, doesn't even need irrigation, but we do have a very hot, dry summer. And with all that rain, you would think water would be easy to come by, but our environmental concerns have run the cost of water up. Providing water conservation through weather-based irrigation or modifying systems and upgrading them to newer, better technology has some of the greatest return on investment of any of the types of things that we provide within our system. So that's one of the first places that we start of saying, hey, we can help save water, which is good for the environment, and we can help save you money. And the systems that we are selling our customers have a good return on investment on that. We're also finding that if we can figure out how to use less fertilizer, that has a less impact and that can reduce the cost if we're using less fertilizer. We're finding, a simple example of, we love green lawns. We're greenies, we're landscapers, we love green lawns. Most of our customers just want the lawn to be some kind of green. It doesn't need to be dark green. So we don't fertilize as much as we used to. And our lawns are not maybe quite as dark green, but we don't have complaints. Green is green to them. And it's reducing the amount of clippings that we're generating, and it's reducing the time it takes to mow. So if we can reduce fertilization and reduce mowing frequency and reduce the amount of maybe clippings that we have to reduce, we're actually reducing the impact on the environment. We're reducing the cost of maintenance to our customers, and they think it's okay. So we're not cheating them. We're just finding a place of, we want to focus on those things that people appreciate, and those things that people don't notice, we think we really like, those aren't really, really important. So you really got to take a look at behind a lot of things that we do of, are we doing this for us or are we doing it for the customer? And can we do it in a way to our customers that takes less effort, less chemical, less gas?
Yeah, that's great. I think ultimately what you're getting to is that it needs to be for both you as the company and the customer, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's good. A follow-up question to that was, what is the marketing appeal with adding sustainable services, and will clients pay additional costs? Will they pay a premium price for these things?
And that's what we found. And this really goes back, over a decade when this whole effort started somewhere around 2006, 2007. We immediately, especially here in the Northwest, got many of our customers from either their owner investors or the tenants in their building starting to say, hey, I'd like to know, what are you doing within your property to improve its sustainability or to reduce its environmental impact? And people came to us and said, what are you doing as my maintenance contractor to do that? And our early thoughts on, well, gosh, do we need to be organic? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And these things are all going to take more labor, or it's going to, different methodologies are going to cost more. So we said, well, here's our normal program and here's some things that we could do, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. And that would be about when the conversation stopped. So we quickly figured out that people want to provide a sustainable service, or they want to buy a sustainable service, or they want to offer to their owner investors or their tenants their plan on providing sustainability, but nobody's really interested in paying a whole lot more of it. Well, you go into the grocery store and an organic apple is more than a regular apple. But when you're talking about a commercial service, they're not going to pay more for that. So what we started to look into is, how can we provide movement toward sustainability, movement toward less fertilizer, movement toward less use of gas, movement of less chemicals, and have it not cost people more money. So we don't think it's a black or white level. And as I said in the beginning of this, it's a movement where we're going down the road of trying to lessen our impact over time, but most customers will not pay more. So you have to figure out how to do these things, having it not cost any more money. And as we talked about, if you can help them save some money with sustainability, that's a super win. And in terms of marketing, I don't think if you build it, will they come? You have to react to your marketplace, but you also need to be prepared for your marketplace moving in that direction. And I talked over the last decade and a half with people who are going, oh, I'm from Kentucky. Nobody's asking for me about this. It's coming. And it may got to Portland. It may got to Oregon sooner than it did in the Midwest or the South, but it's coming. Every organization, every municipality has folks in there that are focusing on that. And quite frankly, I think it's a responsibility of us in the industry to try to do what we can. And if you can figure out how to be more sustainable and have it not cost your customers more money, I think that's our responsibility as an industry to do that.
I think that's very well put, and couldn't agree with you more. I think it's important to say that adding sustainable services to your company needs to be sustainable to your company, right? In other words, you can't probably start all these initiatives at once. Do you have any thoughts on what it looks like to begin adding these services in terms of time frame and how much to take on at once?
Well, and I think that's a really good point of, are you going to change everything all at once? One of the things that I found is I need to convince my organization that this is important. So whether or not it's important to me, and showing where it's important to our customers helps show our employees that it's important, and learning where we can become more educated. Honestly, it's been great having students coming out of the institutions today. They're all sustainably focused. And that has been a really good ability to help motivate us and find people that are interested in helping change the culture in our organization to say, hey, we can, we should, let's challenge ourselves. And start with the simple solutions, and you don't have to get all the way there. So, one of them is evaluate your use of chemicals. And as I talked in there, you can take a look at what are the chemicals you use and how you use them. And are you just doing the same thing all the time? And could you say, maybe we don't need to spray 100% of our lawns with broadleaf weed control twice a year to control weeds when there maybe is 10 weeds a year in a lawn. So let's start looking at, maybe we're not changing our chemical, but we're changing the amount of chemical that we use. Can we convert to organic-based fertilizer? We don't use 100% organic fertilizer because it's not cost effective, but ours is 40% organic. So we're moving in the direction of that. So can we encourage people to convert to weather-based irrigation or modify their system to reduce the amount of water that they use? Can we talk customers into maybe modifying their landscape? There's a lot of places, and in my presentation, talk about we have lawn where lawn shouldn't be, lawn's hard to water. Let's suggest to our customers of taking the lawn out and putting out something in there. Not only will it save water and have a return on investment, it'll probably look better. So look at every little piece of what you do and say, can I do something differently that has less impact on the environment, doesn't cost my customers more, and potentially saves my customers a little bit of money? So it's not everything all at once. It's a little bit over time. And when you create that culture within your organization of looking and challenging yourself in what you do, you'll be surprised at what great ideas that you come up with.
Very good. That's great. Next question is, how durable do you find your electric equipment to be in a rainy climate?
We haven't found that that the rain has created any trouble. We're not having any electrical related problems. It is relatively waterproof. Now I will say, when a electrical piece of equipment goes out, a typical small engine mechanic is not necessarily trained to be able to troubleshoot or problem solve the problem. So ongoing maintenance, and again, we're not using it that significantly, but that is one question that we have of when it breaks down over time, will our small engine mechanics be able to repair, replace those kind of parts? So that's one of the concerns that we have. And again, I maybe poked a whole lot of trouble with battery equipment. I truly believe that battery equipment will replace small engines over time. But there are issues, and maintenance is one of them. But I've not seen any problems with, even in a rainy day all day long, that battery equipment where it's caused a problem or been inoperable because it's been operating in the rain.
Very good. You touched on something I'd like to hear a little bit more about, and that is maintenance on electric equipment. I think you said you've been using electric equipment for 4 or 5 years. I may be mistaken there, but can you share with us what kind of maintenance you've run into with that?
Well, so far with the battery equipment, we haven't run into a lot of problems, but we've utilized our distributors to do most of that service. And what we're finding is there isn't a lot of problems that can go wrong with them. And it's, you know, if it's a component fails or placing maybe an electrical servo motor or something or other on there, but it has not created a tremendous problem. But our distributors have been a great, and a lot of times it's stuff that's been replaced under warranty. So we've relied on our distributors to do the warranty replacement or replacement when trouble has occurred on battery equipment.
Good. We have a question here about using, asking if you can talk more about using goats for weed control.
Yeah, and that's been a very, very popular piece. It's very intriguing. Tenants in business parks where we have utilized goats, you know, it's a spectator sport. Goats are cute, and it's amazing what they can do. What we found is goats are quite effective at not just chopping down, but they basically they eat everything. So the downside of the goat problem is we use them for blackberries. We have Himalayan blackberries as a pretty significant weed problem in our areas, and they really take over wetlandy areas or bioswales. And we've used goats in there. They chop them down to the ground, and when they're done, it looks like they're gone, but they're not, because there's the root mass down there. So where we have utilized goats, we have actually gone back in sometimes in the past of, hey, you're probably going to have goats come out here on an annual basis if you want to be organic with that. But they have been a great methodology versus going in with a tractor or a rotary axe and chopping them down. They'll cut them down to the ground. And then as they come back, we will spray them to keep them from coming back. But goats, we don't have goats. We don't own goats, but there are 3 or 4 goat vendors that they have a goat herd, and we hire them, and they come in and they run their goats in there, and they fence things off and they monitor them. And it's been really a popular thing for many of our customers because their tenants or employees love coming out and watching the goats.
Good. That's great. I've got a question here. It says Ford is coming out with an F-150 that has onboard generators with outlets. Does that seem like a possible solution for charging?
I think so. I guess the question I would say is if you have a truck parked all day long, if you're charging a battery with the car battery, depending on how much, I don't know if they're going to put in a larger capacity or a second battery to have enough capacity to charge a battery. So that the only downside I would see with that is that works great when the car's operating, but when the car is parked, you're draining your car battery to charge your equipment battery. And depending on how many batteries you're trying to keep charged, if you're not moving your car around to recharge your battery, that could be a downsized problem. So I'm not an electrical engineer, but that would be the only thing that I would think of. I'm seeing that more and more, that it's great to have electrical charging ports, and as opposed to having it be an aftermarket thing. Very excited about that, but wondering if they're going to be putting 2 or 3 batteries in an F-150 to be able to have the capacity to recharge batteries.
That's good. The next question is, eliminating plants in lawns can be very expensive, especially when you're retrofitting. Do you have any suggestions for selling this and overcoming the objections?
I think where we found the most amount of success is I don't think I can provide a real return on investment to get rid of the lawn. I'm going to save enough water to pay for the re-landscape. Where we found success is we have lawn that's difficult to water and it doesn't stay green all summer long and it looks ugly. So where we found in some of those pictures on there, parking strips, parking islands, and they have a tree in it. It's surrounded by asphalt and it's got gravel underneath there. And the lawns really, really struggle when the trees get mature. So we're saying not only is this a way to save water and money, it's a way to make that part of the landscape look better. And a lot of times these are, the parking strip is curb appeal. And if you have an ugly lawn on a parking strip in front of a business park and it dries up and it thins out underneath the trees, it's not providing the curb appeal they want. So we're not selling it strictly on the ROI of water savings. We're saying, hey, here we can make your entry look better and it's going to save water. And it's the combination of those two that really is how we sell most of our lawn conversions.
It's good. Just for the attendees, just a reminder that if you have any more questions, please put them in the poll box over here on the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll try to get to those. We only have about 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please ask now. Bob, for those who are looking to get started and maybe they've never done anything before, what do you think would be the easiest thing to start with?
I think the easiest, probably the 2 or 3 areas to start with is number one is water conservation, because that's going to be the easiest one to sell to your customers because it has some level of return on investment and maybe even some operational savings for your customers. The second area would be evaluating your chemical use programs. And again, as I said earlier, it's not necessarily going organic and eliminating, it's evaluating your chemicals and trying to reduce the most toxic chemicals. And as in my program, I talked about, as soon as you put a backpack sprayer on, you're spraying deadly poison. Well, there are more and less toxic chemicals. There are more and less impactful chemicals out there. So evaluate your program, use the least toxic chemicals that you can, and use the least amount of them you can, and have them be targeted and not just blanket sprays. So we found it just shocking when we started doing broadleaf weed control and evaluating it, doing it spot spraying as opposed to broadcast spraying. We reduced 80% of our broadleaf weed control chemical usage. We didn't eliminate it, but reducing it by 80% is pretty good. Now, a little bit more labor to do it that way, but we're saving on chemical, a little bit more labor, we called it a wash. The other area is fertilizer. Evaluate your fertilizer program. And we're finding it's not necessarily going to organic, but it's trying to figure out how to have a slower release fertilizer that doesn't release and leach into the ground. Fertilizer is just mineral nutrients. It's not poison, but if you spread fertilizer and it's all soluble and it releases and it washes through the lawn into the soil or into the groundwater, or it's spread onto the parking lot and it gets into the stormwater system, that it is bad at that point. But you don't have to be organic, but try to use fertilizer responsibly and maybe reduce your amount of fertilizer because, as I said, customers want green lawns. They don't need dark green lawns. They want green lawns.
That's great. And we're looking at only a couple minutes left here, but Bob, how much communication do you do with your clients or even with your community about the initiatives that you're doing to be more sustainable?
Ongoing. I believe marketing, I think you have to tell somebody, why does Coca-Cola advertise? Everybody in the world knows what Coca-Cola is, but they have one of the largest advertising budgets of any company. The point is, you have to be in the front of the mind of everybody. Now, I'm a cheap bastard. I don't like to advertise. I don't like to spend money. I love to get the word out. I love social media. We have a newsletter we send out to people. I love having an opportunity to speak at landscapes. I love to market. I try to find ways to market and get the word out that aren't expensive. But I think you have to constantly tell people, you got to constantly remind people. People won't remember the first, second, or the fifth time you tell them something or other. But if that is a part of your conversation every time you're talking to somebody, if it's in your social media posts, you know, I don't want to go too deep down on that, but we post something on social media every day, Monday through Friday. So 180 posts a year, we're getting our message out. Some of it's about sustainability, some of it's about other stuff, but we're constantly telling people the same thing over and over again. We might mix it up a little bit, but just like Coca-Cola, you got to keep reminding people of what you're doing, what you believe in, and what your initiatives are, because they won't remember tomorrow. You have to remind them.
Very good. Thanks so much for that, Bob. And with that, our time is up. I want to thank the attendees for coming to this session and learning more about this, and excited to hear what you guys are doing to take the next steps. Thank you, Bob, for your time and for your expertise in this topic. And hope you all enjoy the rest of the landscape sessions.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.